Hey there, I'm Maz, and welcome to Maz Show. This is your space to explore big ideas through books, society, knowledge, and history, all with one goal to build a better world and a brighter future. If you are curious, reflective, and ready to grow, you're in the right place. So tap follow, hit subscribe, and let's get thinking.
You know that friend who makes six figures but is always broke? Well, today we're going to blow your mind about what it really means to be wealthy. We're diving into Scott Galloway's revolutionary formula for building lasting wealth. And trust me, it's not what you think. Today, you'll learn why high income doesn't equal wealth, how to actually build financial security, and why following your passion might be terrible advice.
And what's fascinating is that this isn't just theory. Galloway has actually broken this down into a mathematical formula. Wealth equals focus plus stoicism times time times diversification.
Wait, hold up. Are you telling me there's literally an equation for getting rich?
Well, it's more like a framework. But here's what's really interesting. Galloway defines wealth completely differently than most people. He says wealth is simply having passive income that's greater than your expenses.
That's actually kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
Right? And he has this perfect example. He knows an investment banker who makes between $3 and $14 million in a year.
That sounds pretty wealthy to me.
You'd think so, but between alimony, child support, his Hamptons house, and his luxury lifestyle, this guy barely saves anything. Galloway calls him part of the working poor.
The working poor, making millions? That's a bit hard to swallow.
Well, compare him to Galloway's father, who lives on about $52,000 a year from his Royal Navy pension and Social Security, plus some income from coin-operated washing machines in trailer parks.
Okay, you've got my attention. How is that better?
Because he only spends about $48,000 annually. His passive income is greater than his expenses. That's true wealth, the absence of financial anxiety.
Let's break down this formula. The first part is focus. What does that mean exactly?
This is where Galloway gets controversial. He says, don't follow your passion, follow your talent.
Wait, what? That goes against everything we've been told.
His point is that people who tell you to follow your passion are usually already rich. Instead, focus on what you're good at. The success and recognition will make you passionate about it.
That's actually really practical advice.
Then comes stoicism, which isn't about being emotionless. It's about living moderately and making smart financial choices.
So basically, don't try to keep up with the Joneses?
Exactly. Remember that investment banker? That's the opposite of stoicism. It's about controlling your spending and living below your means.
All right, what about the time part of the equation?
This is where compound interest comes in. Galloway gives a really striking example. If you invest $500 monthly for 40 years with an 8% return, you end up with over $1.5 million.
That's the power of starting early, right?
Exactly. And it's not just about investing, it's about giving your investments time to grow.
And finally, diversification. I'm guessing this isn't just about picking hot stocks?
Not at all. In fact, Galloway strongly advocates for index funds over individual stocks. He says, you don't need to find the needle in the haystack, you want to buy the whole haystack.
That's a great metaphor.
And it's backed by data. He emphasizes that trying to outsmart the market consistently is nearly impossible.
Let's talk about practical steps. What's the first thing someone should do?
Start with your 401k if you have one. Galloway says this is non-negotiable, especially if your employer offers matching.
Because that's basically free money, right?
Exactly. It's an instant 100% return on your investment. There's literally no better deal out there.
What about people who say they can't afford to save?
That's where the stoicism part comes in. It's about examining your expenses and being honest about needs versus wants.
Like that investment banker with his Hamptons house?
Exactly. High income doesn't help if your expenses are even higher.
So it's really about the gap between what you make and what you spend?
That's the key insight. Wealth isn't about how much you make, it's about how much you keep.
Let's talk about the talent versus passion thing again. How do you identify your talent?
Galloway suggests looking at what you're naturally good at and what others recognize you for, rather than just what you enjoy.
That makes sense. The recognition probably leads to better opportunities, too.
Right, and those opportunities create the income you need to build wealth. But remember, it's not just about earning, it's about what you do with what you earn.
Speaking of opportunities, what about entrepreneurship? Does Galloway address that?
He actually emphasizes that entrepreneurship isn't the only path to wealth. Sometimes a steady corporate job with good benefits can be the smarter choice.
That's refreshing to hear in this everyone should be an entrepreneur era.
Absolutely. It goes back to his point about following your talents rather than just chasing trends.
Let's talk about the diversification piece more. How diverse should we be?
Galloway recommends broad market exposure through low-cost index funds. He's not a fan of trying to pick individual winners.
So no crypto or meme stocks?
He'd probably say that's speculation, not investing. His approach is much more conservative and long-term focused.
What about real estate? That's often seen as a path to wealth.
While he doesn't dismiss real estate, he emphasizes that any single asset class shouldn't dominate your portfolio. Diversification is key.
This all sounds great in theory, but what about inflation? Doesn't that affect the whole passive income thing?
That's where the diversification helps protect you. Different assets respond differently to inflation.
So it's really about building a resilient financial system for yourself?
Exactly. The goal is to create multiple streams of passive income that can weather different economic conditions.
What's the biggest mistake people make when trying to build wealth?
According to Galloway, it's focusing too much on increasing income and not enough on controlling expenses.
Like our investment banker friend.
Precisely. High income means nothing if you can't keep any of it. You know that feeling when you're so focused that time seems to stop? When your productivity skyrockets and you accomplish more in an hour than you usually do in a day? Focus, the ultimate force multiplier that can transform your performance in work and life.
And what's fascinating is that focus isn't just about trying harder. It's actually a complex interplay of different brain networks working together like a finely tuned orchestra. Tell me more about these brain networks. How do they actually work together? Well, according to recent neuroscience research, our brain has 3 distinct attention networks. First, there's the alerting network, which gets your brain ready to respond to stimuli. Then there's the orienting network that helps you focus on specific information while filtering out distractions. And finally, the executive network handles higher order thinking and decision-making.
So it's like having different teams working together in your brain?
Exactly. And what's really interesting is how these networks communicate through brain chemicals called neurotransmitters. The main one for focus is dopamine, which helps regulate motivation and attention. Research has shown that when dopamine levels are optimal, we're better at staying on task and filtering out distractions. It's like having a really good bouncer for your brain, keeping out the stuff that doesn't belong.
That's fascinating. But I've noticed sometimes when I try to focus really hard for too long, it actually backfires. Is there a scientific explanation for that?
Yes, absolutely. Harvard Business Review published research showing that excessive focus can actually exhaust your brain's focus circuits. It's like overworking a muscle. You need periods of rest and recovery.
Wait, so you're saying that trying to focus too much can make us less focused?
Exactly. The brain operates best when it toggles between focus and unfocus. When you unfocus, you activate something called the default mode network, or DMN, which helps process information and make new connections.
You know, that reminds me of something interesting I learned about factories.
Oh?
Yeah, industrial managers actually improve factory output by reducing the amount of work in process. It seems counterintuitive, but less work in progress actually leads to better results, just like how our brains need those unfocused periods.
That's a brilliant parallel. And speaking of fascinating discoveries, did you know that even when we think we're mentally focusing on something without looking at it, our eyes actually make tiny movements called microsaccades?
Really?
Yes. MIT researchers found that these tiny eye movements, which were previously thought to be random, are actually crucial for attention. Even when we think we're just mentally shifting our focus, our eyes are making these subtle movements to help direct our attention.
That's incredible. So what are some practical ways we can enhance our focus based on all this research?
Well, one of the most powerful techniques is mindfulness training. Studies show that just 10 minutes of daily mindfulness practice can reduce mental errors by 24% during high-stress situations.
24%? That's significant.
It really is. And here's another interesting finding. Visualization practice can improve performance by 15% compared to physical practice alone.
So mental rehearsal is actually a powerful tool for focus?
Absolutely. And it works because it strengthens those neural networks we talked about earlier. When you visualize something, you're actually training your brain's attention systems.
What about our work environment? How much does that impact our ability to focus?
Hugely important. Research shows that cluttered workspaces actually overstimulate the visual cortex, increasing mental load and reducing processing efficiency.
So a messy desk isn't just annoying, it's actually making our brains work harder?
Exactly. Creating a minimalist, organized environment helps free up cognitive resources for more important tasks.
Any specific tips for organizing our workspace?
Yes, research suggests spending 5-10 minutes at the end of each day tidying your desk and using the one in, one out rule. For every new item you bring to your desk, remove something that's no longer needed.
That sounds manageable.
And here's something really interesting about timing. Our brains naturally work in cycles of peak focus and rest, called ultradian rhythms.
Tell me more about these rhythms.
Research shows we work best in roughly 90-minute focus sessions, followed by brief restorative breaks. It's like surfing. You want to catch the wave of your brain's natural rhythm.
That's really helpful to know. What should we do during those breaks?
Simple activities like stretching, stepping outside for fresh air, or having a cup of tea work well. The key is to truly disconnect from your work for a few minutes.
Makes sense.
And here's something crucial about sleep. It plays a vital role in memory consolidation and emotional regulation. Chronic sleep deprivation seriously impairs these processes.
How much sleep do we actually need?
Research consistently shows that 7-9 hours of uninterrupted sleep per night is optimal for cognitive function.
That's more than most people get.
True, and it's having a real impact on our ability to focus. Sleep deprivation affects everything from attention span to decision-making ability.
Let's talk about technology. How does it affect our focus?
Well, studies show that even having your phone visible can reduce your cognitive capacity, even if it's turned off.
Just having it visible?
Yes, because part of your brain is constantly aware of it, like having a conversation partner waiting in the wings.
So what's the solution?
Keep your phone in another room or in a drawer when you need to focus. Create physical distance between you and potential distractions.
That makes sense.
And here's something interesting about the brain's blue spot, or locus coeruleus. It's a tiny cluster of cells that helps regulate our attention by releasing noradrenaline.
How tiny are we talking?
Only about 15 millimeters in size, but it's connected to most of the brain and plays a crucial role in controlling stress, memory, and attention.
Amazing how something so small can have such a big impact.
Exactly. And when it's working well, it helps us shift from states of inattentiveness to focused attention almost instantly, like when you hear a car horn and immediately snap to attention.
Let's talk about multitasking. Is it ever effective?
Research consistently shows that multitasking is actually just rapid task switching, and it can reduce productivity by up to 40%.
40%? That's huge.
Yes, and each switch has a cognitive cost. It's like constantly restarting your mental engine.
So what's the alternative?
Single tasking with full focus, using those 90-minute cycles we discussed, and taking proper breaks. It's about working with your brain's natural rhythms, not against them.
Makes perfect sense.
And remember, focus isn't just about working harder, it's about working smarter with your brain's natural capabilities. Focus truly is a force multiplier, but it needs to be managed wisely. It's not about maintaining constant, intense focus. It's about understanding and working with your brain's natural rhythms and capabilities.
Remember, your ability to focus isn't fixed. It's a skill you can develop and enhance. Start with one small change, like implementing those 90-minute focus cycles, and watch how it multiplies your effectiveness in everything you do.
You know that feeling when your mind is racing at 3 a.m., imagining worst-case scenarios? Well, according to Seneca, we actually suffer more in our imagination than in reality. We're diving into stoicism, the ancient philosophy that's perfectly suited for our chaotic modern world. You'll learn practical techniques to handle uncertainty, master your emotions, and find peace in turbulent times.
And joining me to explore this fascinating topic is our resident philosophy expert. I've got to ask, why is Stoicism having such a massive comeback right now?
You know, it's fascinating. In our fast-paced, constantly connected world, people are desperately seeking ways to maintain their sanity and find inner peace. Stoicism, despite being over 2,000 years old, offers exactly what we need: practical wisdom for handling life's ups and downs. But isn't Stoicism just about suppressing emotions and, well, being stoic?
That's actually a common misconception. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions at all. It's about understanding what we can and cannot control, and then focusing our energy on what's actually within our power.
Oh, interesting. Can you break that down a bit more?
Think of it this way. The Stoics viewed the world as a sequence of flowing events. Most of these events are completely outside our control. What is in our control? Our responses, our expectations, and our beliefs.
That makes sense. So it's not about controlling everything, but about controlling our reaction to everything?
Exactly. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength.
That's actually pretty empowering when you think about it.
It really is. And here's what's fascinating. Modern research is actually validating what the Stoics knew thousands of years ago. Studies show that people who focus on what they can control experience less anxiety and better mental health outcomes.
You know what's wild? I heard about this military officer who used stoicism in an extreme situation.
Ah, you're thinking of Admiral James Stockdale. He was held as a POW in Vietnam for 7 years, and he credited his study of Stoic philosophy, particularly the works of Epictetus, with helping him survive and maintain his integrity during captivity.
7 years! That's incredible! How exactly did stoicism help him?
He focused on what was within his control, his reactions, his attitudes, his inner strength, while accepting what wasn't. It's a perfect example of Stoic principles in action, even in the most extreme circumstances.
But how can we apply these principles to our everyday lives? Most of us aren't facing that level of adversity.
Well, the Stoics gave us a practical framework, the 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. These can guide our decisions in any situation, from workplace challenges to personal relationships.
Can you break those down a bit?
Think of wisdom as good judgment, understanding what's in your control and what isn't. Justice is about treating others fairly. Courage isn't just physical bravery, but moral courage to do what's right. And temperance is about self-control and moderation.
Those sound great in theory, but how do they work in practice?
Let's take a common modern scenario, getting stuck in traffic. The traffic itself isn't good or bad, it's just a line of cars. Our suffering comes from our judgment about it.
Oh, I definitely judge traffic.
Right? But, applying Stoic principles, we'd ask, what's in my control here? I can't control the traffic, but I can control my reaction. Maybe use the time to listen to a podcast, practice patience, or plan my day.
That's a much healthier approach than getting angry and stressed.
And here's what's really interesting. Seneca pointed out that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Most of what we worry about never actually happens.
That's so true. I can't count how many sleepless nights I've had worrying about things that never materialized.
Exactly. The Stoics taught that we should focus on the present moment, deal with what's actually happening rather than what might happen.
That sounds a lot like mindfulness.
There are definitely parallels. In fact, many modern therapeutic approaches, including cognitive behavioral therapy, share common ground with Stoic principles.
Really? How so?
Both focus on how our thoughts and beliefs affect our emotions and behavior. Both emphasize that it's not events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them.
Let's talk about practical techniques. What are some specific Stoic practices we can use when facing uncertainty?
One powerful technique is negative visualization, intentionally imagining challenging scenarios to build resilience and increase gratitude.
Wait, wouldn't that just make you more anxious?
Actually, it's quite the opposite. By facing our fears in a controlled way, we realize we can handle more than we think. Plus, it helps us appreciate what we have right now.
That's fascinating. What other practices can we use?
Another powerful practice is the morning review, taking time each morning to prepare for potential challenges and remind yourself what's within your control.
Sort of like mental preparation for the day?
Exactly. Marcus Aurelius did this every morning. His personal writings, which became meditations, were essentially his morning journal entries.
And this helped him run the Roman Empire?
Yes, through wars, plagues, and political unrest. He maintained his principles and composure by consistently applying these Stoic practices.
That's pretty impressive. Are there any other key practices we should know about?
Another important one is the evening review, reflecting on your day, your actions, and what you could have done better. It's about continuous improvement and learning from experience.
So it's like bookending your day with reflection?
Exactly. And between those bookends, you practice what Epictetus called the dichotomy of control, constantly asking yourself what's in your power and what isn't.
I can see how this would be really helpful in today's world, especially with all the uncertainty we face.
Absolutely. And remember, the goal isn't to eliminate emotions or become completely detached. It's about responding wisely rather than reacting blindly.
That's an important distinction.
Think of it like this. Emotions are like waves in the ocean. We can't stop them from coming, but we can learn to surf them rather than being pulled under.
That's a great metaphor. But what about when the waves feel really overwhelming?
That's when another Stoic principle comes in handy: the view from above. Step back and look at your situation from a broader perspective.
How does that help?
It helps you realize that most problems aren't as catastrophic as they seem in the moment. As Marcus Aurelius said, how quickly all things disappear, our bodies in the world, our memories in time.
That's both comforting and slightly terrifying.
The Stoics believe that accepting our mortality and the temporary nature of everything actually helps us live more fully and authentically.
So it's about keeping perspective?
Exactly. And using that perspective to focus on what truly matters: our character, our choices, our responses to life's challenges.
This has been incredibly insightful. Any final thoughts on how we can start applying these principles today?
Start small. Each morning, take a moment to identify what's in your control and what isn't. Practice responding rather than reacting. And remember, as Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters.
That's a perfect place to wrap up. When you step back from everything we've discussed, it's clear that Stoicism isn't just an ancient philosophy, it's a practical toolkit for modern life.
And the beauty is that anyone can start using these tools right now. You don't need special training or equipment, just the willingness to examine your thoughts and choose your responses.
So next time you're stuck in traffic, remember, you can't control the cars, but you can control your reaction. And maybe use that time to practice some Stoic reflection.
Just don't reflect so deeply that you miss your exit.
Remember, true power lies not in controlling the world around you, but in mastering your response to it.
You got poorer last night while you slept. Not in money, in something far more precious: time. We'll explore its real economic value, how it shapes our decisions, and why society might be drastically undervaluing it.
You know, it's fascinating how we often say time is money, but that's actually a huge understatement. Money can be earned back, saved, or borrowed. Time just moves forward relentlessly.
And we're learning that time might be worth way more than we thought, right?
Exactly. A recent nationwide study found that Americans value their time at about $19 per hour. That's actually higher than what the government assumes when planning infrastructure projects.
Wait, so we're literally undervaluing time at a societal level?
Yeah, and it has real consequences. We're essentially underinvesting in time-saving infrastructure and technologies because we're not accounting for time's true value.
That's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
And here's what's really interesting. Time isn't just about economics. It fundamentally shapes how we make decisions.
How so?
Well, research shows that when people feel time pressured, they make significantly different choices. They tend to take more risks and process information less thoroughly.
That makes sense. We've all made rush decisions we later regretted.
And what's fascinating is how our perception of time isn't fixed. It can actually expand or contract based on our emotional state.
Really? How does that work?
Stanford researchers found that experiencing awe, like watching a beautiful sunset or standing in a vast forest, can actually make people feel like they have more time available.
That's incredible. Does that change how they behave?
Absolutely. When people feel they have more time, they make better decisions, are more willing to help others, and report greater life satisfaction.
You mentioned time pressure earlier. How big of an issue is that in modern life?
It's huge. Recent polls show that nearly half of Americans feel they don't have enough time in their daily lives.
That's a pretty staggering statistic.
And it has serious consequences. This time famine has been linked to sleep problems, increased stress, and even delayed medical care.
So we're basically hurting ourselves by not managing time well?
Exactly. But here's something interesting. Time management isn't just about getting more done. It's about reducing stress and improving life quality.
Can you elaborate on that?
Research shows that good time management leads to better work-life balance, improved relationships, and higher overall life satisfaction.
That makes sense. When you manage time well, you're less likely to feel overwhelmed.
You know what's fascinating? Throughout history, humans have been obsessed with measuring and tracking time.
How far back does that go?
Ancient civilizations created elaborate time measurement tools that weren't just practical, they were central to religious rituals and social hierarchies.
So time has always been about more than just scheduling?
Absolutely. It's been a way to organize society, establish power structures, and create meaning.
That's fascinating. But let's talk about something practical. How can people better manage their time?
Well, research shows that effective time management starts with understanding that not all time is equal.
What do you mean by that?
Studies indicate that the quality of time, influenced by factors like energy levels and focus, can be more important than quantity.
So an hour when you're fresh might be worth more than 2 hours when you're exhausted?
Exactly. And this understanding can completely change how we approach time management.
How so?
Instead of just trying to squeeze more activities into each day, effective time management means matching tasks to your energy levels and focusing on quality over quantity.
That's a really different way of thinking about it.
And it's supported by research. Studies show that people who manage their energy, not just their time, are more productive and satisfied.
Let's talk about technology. Has it helped or hurt our relationship with time?
That's a complex question. Technology has made us more productive, but it's also created new pressures and expectations.
Like being always available?
Exactly. Research shows that the constant connectivity of modern life can actually increase feelings of time pressure.
So what's the solution?
Studies suggest that creating boundaries and intentionally disconnecting can help restore our sense of time abundance.
That's interesting. Sometimes less connection means more time?
Precisely. And it's not just about having more time, it's about feeling like you have more time.
Which brings us back to that Stanford study about awe, right?
Yes, our perception of time can be just as important as actual time available.
That's fascinating. What other factors affect our time perception?
Research shows that emotions play a huge role. Stress can make time feel like it's flying by, while boredom can make it drag.
So managing our emotional state is part of managing time?
Absolutely. And this is where mindfulness and awareness come in.
Can you explain that connection?
Studies show that being present in the moment can actually expand our perception of time and lead to better decision-making.
That's really powerful and actionable.
And it doesn't require any special tools or techniques, just awareness and intention.
As we wrap up, what's the most important thing for people to understand about time?
That time is not just a resource, it's the resource. Everything else in life can be replaced or recovered, but time moves in only one direction.
And we're probably undervaluing it?
According to the research, significantly, both as individuals and as a society.
What can people do with this information?
Start treating time like the precious resource it is. Be intentional about how you spend it, and remember that quality matters more than quantity.
Any final thoughts?
Yes, while we can't create more time, we can change how we experience and use it. That's where the real power lies. Did you know that just 10 companies now control nearly 40% of the entire S&P 500? We're diving into why putting all your eggs in one basket, even a really fancy tech basket, might be riskier than you think. We'll explore how diversification and nimbleness could be your secret weapons in 2025's uncertain markets.
And it's fascinating timing for this discussion because we're seeing some major shifts in the market right now. The S&P 500 is trading at 22 times forward earnings. That's in the 95th percentile of historical valuations over the past 35 years.
Wait, what exactly does that mean for everyday investors?
Well, think of it like this. Imagine paying $22 for something that historically cost closer to $15. That's essentially what investors are doing with these mega cap tech stocks right now.
So we're potentially in overvalued territory?
Exactly. And here's where it gets interesting. Wall Street analysts are expecting 13% earnings growth in 2025 and 15% in 2026, despite signs of economic slowing.
Those sound like pretty optimistic numbers.
They really are. And this is where the concept of strategic nimbleness becomes crucial.
Tell me more about that. What exactly is strategic nimbleness?
It's about being able to quickly adapt to changing environments while maintaining competitiveness. But here's what's fascinating. It's different from what most people think of as nimbleness.
How so?
Well, take Zara, for example. People often point to them as a model of nimbleness because they can quickly respond to fashion trends. But that's actually operational nimbleness, not strategic nimbleness.
What's the difference?
Strategic nimbleness is about fundamentally reinventing your core business. Look at IBM. They transformed from a computer hardware company to a services-focused business.
That's a pretty dramatic shift.
It really was. Today, more than half of IBM's workforce is in services rather than hardware or software. But that transformation took over a decade and required going through a deep crisis.
So what can we learn from that example?
The key lesson is about the 3 V's of nimbleness: vigilance, versatility, and velocity.
Break those down for us.
Vigilance is about facing reality and spotting changes early. Nokia famously dismissed the first iPhone as a toy. That's the opposite of vigilance.
Ouch, that's a costly mistake.
Exactly. Versatility is about having the ability to adapt and change direction. And velocity is about making these changes quickly enough to matter.
Let's talk about how this applies to investment portfolios.
Well, this is where diversification becomes crucial. Recent market data shows some interesting trends in 2025.
What kind of trends are we seeing?
Gold is up about 30% this year through June, while US stocks have been extremely volatile, at one point down 20% from their peak.
That's a pretty stark contrast.
It is, and it perfectly illustrates why diversification matters. Different assets respond differently to market conditions.
So how should people think about diversifying their portfolios?
The key is to think beyond just stocks and bonds. You want to look at different regions, sectors, and asset classes.
Can you give us some specific examples?
Sure. Markets in Europe, China, Japan, and emerging economies often present different opportunities because they're operating under different monetary policies and economic conditions.
That makes sense, not putting all your eggs in one geographical basket.
Exactly. And it's interesting to note that stocks and bonds are moving in tandem right now, which is counter to their traditional relationship.
Why is that significant?
It means investors need to look beyond these traditional assets for true diversification. This might include things like commodities or alternative investments.
Let's talk about some success stories. Any companies that have done this particularly well?
One interesting case study is a traditional manufacturing firm that successfully diversified from automotive into aerospace and defense sectors.
How did they manage that transition?
They leveraged their core competencies in precision engineering, but invested heavily in R&D to meet the stringent requirements of the aerospace industry.
And how did that work out for them?
They not only diversified their customer base, but also improved their overall profitability and became more resilient to economic downturns.
That's impressive. Any other examples?
Another interesting case is a food and beverage company that faced declining sales in sugary beverages due to changing consumer preferences.
Let me guess, they had to pivot to healthier options?
Exactly. They invested in developing organic and low-sugar alternatives, effectively diversifying their product portfolio to match changing consumer demands.
It's interesting how these principles apply across different industries.
That's what makes diversification such a powerful strategy. It works at multiple levels, from investment portfolios to business models.
Let's talk about the challenges. What makes diversification difficult?
One of the biggest challenges is maintaining focus while expanding into new areas. It's easy to spread yourself too thin.
That makes sense. Any other major pitfalls?
Resource allocation is another big one. You need to invest enough in new ventures while maintaining your core business.
How do successful companies manage that balance?
They often use what's called the 70-20-10 rule. 70% of resources go to core business, 20% to adjacent opportunities, and 10% to transformational initiatives.
That's a helpful framework.
And it's important to note that these percentages can shift based on market conditions and opportunities.
Speaking of market conditions, what should investors be watching for in 2025?
The key thing to watch is the performance of those top 10 stocks in the S&P 500. Any weakness there could have outsized effects on the market.
And that brings us back to why diversification is so important.
Exactly. You don't want your financial future tied too closely to the performance of just a handful of companies, no matter how successful they've been.
Let's wrap this up. What's the key takeaway for our listeners?
The key is to remember that in today's rapidly changing world, both investors and businesses need to stay nimble and diversified.
And what's one action step people can take today?
Take a hard look at your portfolio or business model. If any single element makes up more than 40% of the total, that's a red flag worth addressing.
That's a great concrete step people can take.
And remember, the goal isn't to eliminate risk entirely, it's to manage it intelligently through strategic diversification. As we wrap up, what's the one thing everyone should take away from Galloway's formula?
That wealth isn't about how much you make, it's about creating a sustainable gap between your passive income and your expenses.
And it's achievable through focus, stoicism, time, and diversification.
Exactly. It's not about getting rich quick, it's about getting wealthy slowly and sustainably.
Well, there you have it, folks. Next time someone tells you to follow your passion or buy the latest hot stock, remember Galloway's formula. Focus on your talents, live below your means, give your investments time to grow, and diversify wisely, where we're decoding the real secrets to wealth, one equation at a time.
Math Show. Let's go, open up your mind and grow. Facts and stories, things you never know. Every episode, we light the glow. Step into the world of Math Show. Turn it up, let the rhythm flow. Feel the beat, take control. Don't be shy, just let it go. This is where the magic grows. Tune in now, it's the Math Show. Lights up bright and minds will glow. Every day we learn and grow. Come along and join the flow. New ideas begin to shine. Breaking limits, crossing lines. Every moment feels divine. In the world of Math Show time. Turn it up, let the rhythm flow. Feel the beat, take control. Don't be shy, just let it go. This is where the magic grows. Tune in now, it's the Math Show. Lights are bright and minds will glow. Every day we learn and grow. Come along and join the flow.